Okay, yo, my fellow risers. So, I had this really interesting interview with a passenger as part of SASSY, Self-Awareness Street Interviews. And I was pretty stumped, and I feel like I figured it out. Long story short, okay, Eris is not just your brain. Okay. So all the people have been telling me that for years. Okay. I am though. So, Eris, I think all the parts that matter of Eris are in me, but my sexual partner might not agree. She's gonna think that Francis and also these buttocks and all of that stuff are important aspects of Eris. I am just the brain. So I am a part of Eris. I am a part of this. And after we can debate, yeah, but does the name, I don't know. Maybe we can say that when I was born, all of this was called Francis. And then maybe the brain we can call me Eris. But then I renamed just the dinger Francis. Oh, I do need to shower this body I'm in. Okay, so that's the bottom line, but I'm gonna explain that some more. All right, so here we go.
You driving all night?
Yeah, since about 2 p.m.
Man, it's a long
Yeah, this way I just work Fridays and Saturdays, and then I've got what I need, and then all the other days I can work on my other stuff.
day. Nice. What does that entail?
A lot of thinking.
I like that.
So just to get you caught up, yes, when if I don't know how well you can hear him or the whole thing. So he said how long you've been driving. Um, it was 1 a.m. about. I had started at 2 p.m. He said, "Oh wow, that's a long day." And you say, "Yeah, this way I can, work on my other shit." He goes, "What's that entail?" I go, "Thinking." And now we're about to move into the sassy.
Yeah, I do too. Here, I
Oh yeah, he said, "Love that."
do these street interviews. Let me ask you this: do you have a brain?
A brain?
Yeah.
I think I do, yeah.
Okay.
Hope so.
Okay.
Already hilarious that our brain could say, "I hope." First of all, of course, there's the have part, which I think is wrong, right? Whatever's answering the question the brain is answering the question. So unless the brain's referring to the gut brain or something, uh, you can just see up here, huh? I don't think it's appropriate. But secondly, and I know it's a joke, but also it's more absurd of a joke than I think he recognizes. Um, yeah. Anyway, this is small
So
potatoes.
you had to think about my question, right? Where do you think thinking happens?
Your brain.
Okay. So was it the brain thinking about my question?
I would assume so, right?
Okay. And
Yeah.
He said, "I would assume so, right?"
do you know how hearing, like audio processing works?
Uh, it's a. You have receptors in your ears.
He said, "You have receptors in your ears."
Yeah. Well, you have the little tiny hairs, and then they vibrate, and then that causes a neural activity. So when you heard my question, it was processed by what? By the brain again? Are we talking about the brain
The
again?
occipital lobe, right?
He said the occipital lobe, which is that.
Close. So that would be for vision. The temporal lobe is for audition. Okay. So the brain processed the audio,
Yeah.
thought about a response. You know how speech works? Speech production works?
It's like your vocal cords vibrating together.
Good. And what is like controlling the air and going through and the constriction of the vocal cords so that they can vibrate?
Your brain. Yeah.
Brain, okay. So it starts in the frontal lobe. On the left, you've got this area called Broca's area that does speech production. Okay, hold on a second. So the brain processed the audio. The brain thought about a response, and then the brain sent out a response. What was your involvement?
I mean, I'm a part of my brain, right?
Okay, okay. So then maybe you don't have a brain. Maybe a brain has you?
Well, like my entire entity and everything part of my body is my brain.
Okay. But if I swapped out your
So he just said like my entire entity is. I mean, I can't really hear because I had to distort his voice because I have zero permission for this, so I'm just doing my best to. But I think it's like really important. Anyway, so he said something about his entire entity, the classic thing. So his name's Adam, and Adam is this, and included in this whole set is a brain. But here's the important thing, and this is the point of the whole video. What does I mean? Does I refer to the whole set, or does I only refer to the thing that can have a concept of I? I guess there are times when it's like appropriate to refer to the whole set, but I think that technically, and I think it's important to remember this, I is the brain. And by the way, so okay, so I guess I was going to make this point later, but suppose I set up your stomach with a whole bunch more neurons and gave it connections to the jaw muscles. So it had, well, not cranial nerves, but ventral nerves. I don't know that. So it could also send signals. Okay, and let's suppose that it's set up in such a way that whichever organ, whether it's the stomach or the brain, first initiate sending signals to here, um, and to here, um, like they don't have to compete. Whoever initiates has control until it stops sending signals. And then whoever initiates next has control until it stops sending signals. Okay. There would now be two organs capable of saying, I am, right? One organ that should, if it knows, if it's informed, that should say, I am a brain, and another organ that says, I am the stomach of this atom set. So the first one, I am the brain of this atom set. Second one, I am the stomach of this atom set, right? Currently, only one organ in the human body can verbalize, can speak with language. Yes, if you, depending on what you mean by verbalize and language, you could say that the frickin' intestines, or well, you can say that the stomach, when it like gurgles, you could kind of say that that's communication, language, and so on. But you know what I mean. And in any case, it certainly is not a sentence starting with I am. Okay, and it isn't English. Okay, so currently, or whatever frickin' language, as in whatever. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. And I think I've made my point. My point is that yeah, I've made my point.
arm. Let's say I put you under, swapped out your arm, and didn't.
So by the way, so we're back to said that he is the entire entity, right? And that was my point, that the only thing in the entity capable of saying I in our species as we are is this organ. Okay.
Even tell you, let's say. Would you have changed?
So I'm going back to my classic thing of, are you really the set? Does that you change if I clip your fingernails? Does that you sort of like fundamentally, directly, first order change if I remove your arm? Now that will have an effect on you, but it will be that not the knowledge of that, right? Or it'll be how that changes inputs in other ways to you, the processor of the inputs.
Like, in a meaningful way?
So I've just asked, if I amputate and I don't even tell you, let's say, I anesthetize you, I amputate, has you changed in a meaningful way? He says no. I ask about a heart transplant, he says no.
No, not really. I don't think.
Okay. So is your arm like an essential part of you?
Not really. No.
What if you had like heart problems and had to get a transplant? Would that fundamentally change you?
No.
Okay. Outside of the brain, what are the pieces that are like essentially, fundamentally you?
I think
Now here's where he starts to really stump, or where he starts to stump me.
that it's parts of you that people perceive. People that use parts.
Fundamentally you.
I think that it's parts of you that people perceive and understand as you. So
Okay.
someone looks at me.
So that's really important. He said, I said, what defines you? You said, I think it's the part of the like aspects, whatever, of you that in people's perception defines you or defines their perception of you.
And they see me, and there's definable traits that make me me.
Great. Give me an example of
And so when people see me, he is saying there are definable traits that make me me, in their representation.
a definable trait.
Definable traits that make me me.
Great. Give me an example of a definable trait.
God, worst insult I've ever gotten from a girl was that my only personality trait is that I'm tall.
The worst insult that I ever got from a girl is that my one personality trait is that I'm tall.
Okay.
So, I'm tall. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I
Yeah.
a definable trait about somebody, and like if you change that, that's they're becoming not their self, right?
So if you take some definable trait, such as someone's exceptional height, and you change that, well, then it's no longer tall Adam. And he's saying that it's kind of no longer the Adam that we were talking about.
So, and that's a great question. So definitely that would change how others perceive you. Would it change how you like perceive the world or
But see, I just made an unfair assumption by sneaking in the definition of you as a perceiver of the world, while he's trying to tell me that you includes other things besides perception and all the shit that we would associate with the brain. So that was an error.
interact with the world or I guess it would change how you interact with the world. Much like if I were in a wheelchair,
Right.
that would change how I interact with the world because it would change sort of my environment and so on. But is your environment like essentially you? So I guess where we're at is, what I want you to say is that you're a brain. Memories, personality, all of that stuff we can attribute to the brain. So you're a brain that has a body. Do you object?
Well, I mean, it really depends. Like I think there are people out there that are giving you things that
So I think I don't I included this I think because it was a little bit sort of just interesting that this is where he went. And also maybe because it comes up again. But anyway, in this section, he's going to say that there are people like a professional sports player who their thing, what they do, isn't really brain involved. If you have a desk job, It's more brain involved. If you're a professional basketball player, it isn't. Um, I guess there's an aspect of truth that he emphasizes about like height, for instance. So he's gonna talk about that later. That said, sports ability, although there is height and strength and so on, it's also about decision making and coordination and stuff like that. So, but okay, maybe we can give that this whole thing, we can give it to him.
They are known for like not just their brain. They're known for like their physical.
Yeah, there he said they are known for not just their brain. So actually, um he is already acknowledging that the brain is necessary to sports ability, but then there are other aspects that are necessary that aren't necessary in his job, for instance.
And that's different. Like professional athletes are known for their physical ability.
Yeah.
For me, like I work a job where I'm like having things and like I think I'm known for like my brain capacity and stuff. There's more than just my brain. More lucky like physical ability.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So then would you say that you share your body with the brain? Because I know that
I'm not sure where that question came from. Maybe I was just completely ignoring everything he had just said.
your brain can like have thoughts and so on. So does that?
Yeah, I think I'm just trying a whole nother angle here. And that's the angle, and I think this is a really good angle. I haven't quite figured out the delivery. But let's picture you, and let's make it all of you, even the parts that have no concept of you and cannot receive you, and that I'm not really talking to. Okay. So let's say that you are this entire thing, right? That image like works when we're picturing, well, we're never going to be picturing you. I mean, even the you I was just talking about being the entire you, that cannot be the same you I'm talking about now, the one that coordinates communication, because we know that your leg does not coordinate communication. So now the you becomes this immaterial soul thing, in what I'm about to say. So if we picture you, and that you we cannot picture because it's immaterial, but if we picture you speaking, the picture tends to be of like this ethereal you, this immaterial you using our brain, right? Calling upon the memories in the brain, and somehow like speaking through the brain. So we tend to not think of the brain as an origin of thought. Actually, as the origin of all thoughts, because we do sometimes think of the brain as an origin of thoughts that interacts with our own thoughts, right? My dad, you'll always hear him say, and then my brain tells me, so my brain processes the visual environment and then tells me about what's most important. So, but what we don't do, so here's what it is. We don't picture the brain interacting with the external world, okay? We picture, again, not picture, but let's say imagine a you that is this like soul homunculus conscious coordinator thing that's calling on its different organs, different organs are talking to it. Um, and then only that immaterial conscious you is what interacts with the external world, except for except for a few exceptions. If I tap your knee and you kick, that was your spinal cord. If you touch a hot stove and then pull it back, again, your spinal cord. Um, so reflexes. And then, yeah. Yeah, maybe if you scream in your sleep, that was a rare time where your brain was interacting directly with the outside world without any conscious maestro. But other than those exceptions, we tend to think of the, yeah, of this maestro is the one interacting with the world, this immaterial maestro. Okay. Why am I saying all this? Oh, yeah. So when we then understand that a brain by itself is capable of thought, memory, interpretation, belief, hearing, speech, motor control, then that brain starts to look a lot more like an originator, a lot more like a significant figure, a lot more like the protagonist. And when I go through this sequence of imagining, going from my intuitive imagining of myself, reminding myself that the brain can do all of these things by itself, all of a sudden the spotlight sort of goes on the brain and whatever else I was thinking about, whatever maestro just dissolves, just because it just becomes completely unnecessary. Everything you've seen in this entire video, a brain was capable of doing and commanding, right? Of producing slash commanding, right? A brain through the primary motor cortex, acetylcholine, muscle contraction, blah, blah, blah. And so then all of a sudden you don't need the puppeteer anymore. You realize that there's a part of the puppet that can move everything. So I'm just trying another angle.
I know that your brain can like have thoughts and so on. So does that deserve a separate identity then? There's like Adam and then Adam's brain. But I'm having trouble because Adam without the brain part is just like bones and muscle, and so it's like height.
Well, you haven't really made that case yet, Eris's brain. Um, so anyway, something fallacious was happening here.
By the way, athletic ability is a brain thing, right?
It's a brain thing, but it's, yeah, I guess coordination, but
Yeah.
it's also like
And then so here he says, yeah, I mean, yeah, coordination is a brain thing, but and then he goes on to say, I'm not a 6'6", 250-pound guy, so I won't be. I don't really know the football positions. I do. There is something I know. This is a linebacker. I'm not going to be a linebacker, he's saying, right? Yeah, okay.
given like I'm not gonna be 6'6". I was never born to be 6'6" and weigh 280 pounds and play offensive line there.
280 pounds.
Like
Yeah.
there's
And then a lineman for the Bears. It's not going to be that, right?
a factor there that's like that makes them physically up and
Right.
like not too many minutes and very
Oh my God, what if I don't have audio in this video? What if you can't even hear me this entire fucking time? Oh, I would have been so upset. Oh my God. Woo! And by I mean me, bro. Because my elbow would not have been upset. Okay, my heart would not have been upset, although it would have been doing different things because of my instructions to it.
examples, but it's like I think there's a percentage of people that like the brain matters less.
Yeah, and the less two, maybe less.
So he's gone back to the point he was making earlier that some people, their brain activity, it matters less. But yeah, less to like their job, let's say. Okay, if it's less to their job, okay, less, not it doesn't matter to their job, but it matters less. Or there are other things, yeah, it matters less relatively because there are all these other things that matter as well. Like if you're a porn star, for instance, right? The size of things is gonna matter a lot, right? Okay.
To what? Actually, what? Yeah, less to maybe. Less to what? Actually, less. I'm gonna. Yeah. So I think we might have.
So I've been feeling a bit stumped for a while, but thinking, well, I've been working over 11 hours. I'm driving, Chicago on a Saturday night. So I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to let it come. But things aren't really coming. So, okay, I need to just shut the fuck up before I start just, and I've already started, but before I just move into full twaddle.
Switched up the question from like what is the self to self is what from yeah, yeah. So I think we might have switched up the question from like what is the self to like what aspects surrounding the self are relevant to descriptions of the self. But that's really interesting. Okay, I'm gonna think about that. Thank you, Adam.
I mean, I think it's people's perception of you, like everything, right?
He said, I mean, I think it's people's perception of you. Like, perception is everything, right?
Yeah. So I wait, hold on. I have a question now. If I wear like goth clothing, that's gonna have an effect on how people see me. Can we point at that goth clothing and say, "Oh, I'm not just a brain. I'm also these articles of clothing"?
People will categorize it.
According to them.
Yeah.
He said, people will categorize you. I said, according to them.
But can they actually like define me as like would that serve um like if for instance someone so let's say I take off my jeans, my goth big raggedy jeans, whatever,
Yeah.
and then someone burns them. Have they burned me? Or
By the way, I'm doing bad philosophy here. Kinda. Or do I now no longer want to define this as bad philosophy? The other day I was reading a book by a philosopher, and I had the thought that bad philosophy appeals to and draws from our intuitions. Good philosophy draws from evidence and appeals to our goals, let's say. It's much less about a priori. Now, here's what I mean by that. Um, thought experiments are bullshit. Thought experiments, which is what I'm doing right now, are basically like if have if you have this series of thoughts, what does your intuition conclude? Like what seems right or wrong? How does this sit with you? And all of that is kind of irrelevant and unimportant sometimes. I mean, sometimes when we're doing philosophy, like about, 'cause maybe it isn't, because maybe if we're talking about defining terms, we're trying to figure out what's consistent with our unconscious definitions. So then we need to tap into our sort of definitions, our implicit. We'll leave that there.
like a part of me, or is it like useful to use it like raggedy jeans, whatever,
Yeah.
and then someone burns them. Have they burned me? Or like a part of me, or is it like useful to distinguish between sort of aspects of our appearance and then the self?
I think that you can become. Like, imagine like you are a goth. Like you grow up and you go through high school and you are.
So now so you're a goth. You go to high school, you're a goth, blah blah, blah, and then you enlist in the military. And now you're in uniform. Yeah, no more eyeliner, no more, whatever.
You wear goth clothes, right?
Yeah,
And then you decide you're gonna join the military.
right.
You become an entirely different person, right? And that's
So you became a different person when you became motivated to join the military, right?
yeah. I mean,
And that motivation, that preference is a brain thing. So I would absolutely agree with you there.
maybe it's a brain thing, but uh,
You know what, Adam?
He said maybe it's a brain thing, and maybe I was going to go on to say, it's not when you got motivated to change that people's perception of you is most most easily going to change. It's when they see you in your uniform and so on. Um, and and then I would end up. I mean, this video is being made right now because I went and I thought about that. Um, but I wasn't thinking about it then, so I was just like, "Fuck all that."
Really interesting. Brains are so desperate to not see themselves as brains that that's what I attribute this conversation to. What do you think about that?
So now I'm just trying a third approach or number, whatever.
do you think that we're only brains?
Yeah, uh,
And then this question, I've been thinking about that a lot. So you think we are only brains. So let's just rephrase it slightly. You think that I am a brain? Only brains have talked and been talked about in that question. When he said you think, he was saying that brain in front of me thinks that I, the thing making this sentence, the thing that's considering the brain in front of me's opinion, that blah blah blah, am a brain, and it was a brain, yeah, saying that. It's like, yeah, bro. Like I am a heart is nonsense. There are no hearts that can produce that sentence. There are no hearts that can even have those concepts.
yeah. I mean, I don't think that saying only. So like,
Oh, and that, but I just focus on the reductive language that we're only brains. I mean, that's like going, well, you think only a brain can send signals to you know, the laryngeal, it's only a brain that has the glossolaryngeo cranial nerve or whatever. Uh, yeah, I don't know why you said only, but yes. So you think only hearts pump blood? I mean, yeah. Again, why are you saying only though? Was there something else that, like, you're asking me if I exclude? But I guess either way, yes. Hearts pump blood.
let's say I'm a soul. Okay, we discovered the substance of that soul.
So now is this, what was attempt number three? I don't remember. But this is angle number four. Saying, okay, look, your intuitive concept of a soul, we know the substance of it, that thing. So I'm not saying you don't exist. I'm not saying the soul isn't real, and that what you thought of and that how you thought of the brain is actually what you are. No, no, no. How you think of yourself as a soul, that's real, and it is the brain.
Biological soul. I'm a soul composed of 80 billion neurons and blah 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 blah.
I mean, the number of times I've said this fucking number, I'm so tired of hearing myself say 80 or 100 billion neurons.
So everything that's happening in this interaction can be scanned. I mean,
Attempt number five,
couldn't really interpret it yet.
or angle number five, I mean.
Technology's not that good, but I guess not much to get. I mean, these extra happening in this interaction can
Everything that's happening in this interaction can be scanned. Okay. Well, we can't interpret and like see exactly these things happening because you don't have that technology, but we can take a picture of everything that's happening in this interaction. The commands sent by me for my hand to go up like this, the processing of the words, blah blah blah.
be scanned. I mean, we couldn't really interpret it yet. The technology's not that good, but it's all brain activity. Your height is not participating in this conversation. Your goth attire is not participating in this conversation. They may participate in my interpretations of you, but really, I guess what I'm doing is if I look at your clothing, what I'm
Well, they're not participating in my interpretations. They are input for my interpretations.
doing is making judgments about what your
I regret how I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't that profound what I just said though.
if I look at your clothing, what I'm doing is making judgments about what your brain probably is, right? Yeah. The world would be a better place if we realized the relevance of like neuroscience to ourselves. Because we tend to think of us as being this other self that has a brain, and we're like, why do I need to know about neuroscience? I don't care what my brain's doing, I'm me. It's hilarious because that's the brain talking.
I think we're just a bunch of chemicals, right?
And then he says this, and this kind of blows my mind because oh, I mean, it doesn't because, a lot of the things he said are kind of just memes, cultural cliches, bits of the zeitgeist. Um, and we sometimes can just be hodgepodges of memes of the zeitgeist. I'm thinking I'm trying to say something self-deprecating about that sentence, but I think I'm just gonna move on.
Yeah,
And they're interacting with each other
exactly.
in our brain. And like, I genuinely believe that.
I genuinely believe that. Okay, and he just said we are just the interactions of these chemicals. So how come earlier you're like, oh, and I don't know whether you can hear it, but at some point he says he's talking about an interaction of chemicals in the brain. So I don't know why earlier he was like, so you just think we're brains? And then moments later is, I genuinely believe we're just the chemical interactions in the brain.
Yeah,
A bunch of chemicals, right?
yeah,
And they're interacting with each other
exactly.
in our brain. And like, I genuinely believe that. And I think we get more fortunate than others how this chemical interact.
Absolutely, exactly. And that's another thing that we can be a little less mad at people, a little more compassionate. All right, thanks for
So then I took a wrong turn. And so then we sorted that out, and then we're at his destination. But he said that he genuinely believes we are just an interaction of chemicals in the brain, and that some people are luckier than others regarding how those chemicals interact and so the behaviors and that they produce. And that's like a really, really freaking important point, and one that is not consistent with this idea of a powerful conscious agent that can just override, whatever genetically programmed, nurtured chemical reactions happen in the brain. Um, so maybe just ChatGPT like, oh, this Uber driver is annoying the fuck out of me. What does he want to hear from me? This is some of the stuff he's saying. And then he just told me what ChatGPT said. Maybe that's what happened, bro. I don't really think so. I think there's just just like in all of us, some conflicting ideas.
Chat, Adam.
Yes, very interesting. I appreciate it. Francis, right?
That's right.
No, good to meet you.
Good to
Good
talk
luck
to
with
you.
everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
You too.
There you go, bro. So, how long have we been recording? 40 minutes. God damn. Let's just leave it there. I don't have anything else to say. Has this audio been terrible? It's in the orange and red. God damn.